Hi everyone, I'm Jerry from Snow Software. I've been designing and building systems in the cloud for more than a decade now and created these videos to share my experiences with you. This video, the fourth in the Cloud Fundamentals series, is about the different compute pricing options you have in the cloud, like on-demand pricing, reserve pricing, and spot pricing. Let's get started. So in the previous video, I introduced you to the three primary compute options available to you in the cloud: virtual machines, containers, and functions. In this video, I thought I'd follow up with the different pricing models you can choose from for your cloud compute needs. And these include on-demand pricing, reserve pricing, and spot pricing. All of these are designed to give you the ability to build really cost-efficient, highly available, and easily scalable systems. The way I'm going to discuss these is going to be specific to virtual machines, but some of it will also apply to some extent to containers and functions. And if I can, when I remember, I'll call out the similarities. So let's get started with on-demand pricing. So on-demand pricing is probably the most popular and definitely the most long-lived pricing option available in the cloud. It's really the on-demand you think of when you say the definition of cloud computing, like the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. With on-demand pricing, you really pay for your compute resources while you're using them. So when your VM or virtual machine is running, you pay for it. When it's not, you don't. It's really that simple. With on-demand pricing, there's no long-term commitment. You have complete control over the life cycle of your virtual machine, when it starts, when it stops, reboots, terminates, etc. And you pay for on-demand in units like hours or minutes or seconds, depending on your cloud provider. And some providers may have a minimum billing period, like a minute or 10 minutes, for example. So anytime you start up an instance, at a minimum you'll pay that, and once you go beyond it, you pay the smallest increment. The amount you pay per unit depends on the instance type itself, like how much memory does it have, how many virtual CPUs, if it has any special features like GPUs, etc. So on-demand is great for sort of regular short-term workloads or irregular workloads with varying capacity, and is really for workloads that are not interruptible. And that'll make more sense as I talk about the other kind. So this is the most common type, and for those who are just moving to the cloud, probably the place where you'll land first and get started. So on-demand pricing is great for workloads that you expect are going to fluctuate over time. While they're running, you pay for them, and while they aren't, you don't. But what about workloads or portions of workloads that are always running? That's where reserved capacity or reserved instances come in. With reserved pricing, your cloud providers offer significant discounts if you commit to a predetermined level of capacity that you're going to require. For example, suppose you have a cloud application that processes video 24/7, 365 days a year, and requires X amount of capacity. In return for a commitment, multi-year, maybe it's 1 or 3 or 5 years, and potentially some upfront payment, you can realize up to a 75% discount, which is pretty significant. So it's very useful, used in combination with on-demand. So you can use reserve pricing for your constant workloads and then on-demand for your varying workloads. So it's good for workloads that have constant capacity for both short and long-term workloads, those that require high availability and easy scalability. Finally, there's spot pricing. Now, all cloud providers provide some form of spot pricing, or maybe they may call it preemptible instances. And with spot pricing, you can achieve up to around a 90% discount on your compute instances. So the way this happens is cloud providers have excess capacity that's going unused, and they're willing to sell it to you at a very steep discount. In return, you have to be able to preempt your workload, so they could take that instance back at any time with very short notice termination. And there's really no capacity guarantee in the spot pricing space. So you think about workloads that are stateless, that are interruptible, that can be run in parallel, that are fault tolerant. These type of workloads are a great candidate for spot pricing. Workloads that if the instance were to go away, you could restart it at a later time, or start over from scratch, or restart it from a particular state. So the question then becomes, given on-demand, reserved, and spot pricing, what pricing model should you use? Well, the answer is all of them if you can. I'll explain. Say you have a workload that has a typical demand pattern. If it's an e-commerce application, you might have a high demand, Monday through Friday during normal business hours, and then low demand in the evenings. That's a great use case for on-demand capacity. You scale up and you scale down your capacity as your customer's demand dictates. But what happens when your business grows, and instead of requiring very little capacity at night, now you're starting to do business overseas, and so you need some capacity during the evenings? That demand is a great case for reserved capacity instances. So you can use reserved capacity in combination with on-demand to achieve significant amount of savings as your workloads grow and you start to see constant demand on your systems. In addition, you may have some other smaller workloads that are infrequent or interruptible throughout the day, and you can use those in combination and include spot capacity instances in that case. Those are, again, the types of jobs that are interruptible, that can be restarted, like image processing or batch processing, etc., or some other types of tasks that you can restart at a later time. So as you can see in this case here, you can use all three types of capacity: on-demand capacity for those normal fluctuating demand needs, reserved capacity for constant demand needs, and then spot capacity for those intermittent, interruptible workloads that you might have. That's it for the different pricing options available to you in the cloud. In my next video, I'll start talking about the different database options you have in the cloud, including NoSQL, SQL, relational, and other purpose-built databases. I hope you'll join me for that. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me at AWS Geek on Twitter, and don't forget to visit snowsoftware.com. Thanks.